Number 13. Manuscripts. When Martin Eden returned to San Francisco, he began to write. He sent his works to newspapers and magazines, but the editors sent his manuscripts back. Martin continued to write and study at the same time. Martin slept 5 hours. Only a man of very good health could work for 19 hours a day. The weeks passed. All Martin's money was spent, and publishers continued to send his manuscripts back. Martin sold his coat, then his watch. One morning the postman brought him a short, thin envelope. There was no manuscript in that envelope. Therefore, Martin thought they had taken the story. It was The Ring of the Bells. In the letter, the editor of San Francisco magazine said that the story was good. They would pay the author $5 for it, and he would receive the check when the story was published. Martin thought that $5 for 5,000 words was very little. After a few weeks, the story was published, but the check didn't arrive. Martin had waited for about a month before he decided to go and get the $5 from the editor. He entered the office and said that he wanted to see Mr. Ford, the editor. "I'm Martin Eden," Martin began the conversation. He wanted to ask for his $5. But it was his first editor, and he didn't want to make a bad impression on him. To his surprise, Mr. Ford quickly stood up with the words, "You don't say so," and the next moment both hands were shaking Martin's hand. By Jack London. The end. Examination card 14. Flight. For many centuries people watched birds and dreamed that they could fly. We cannot fly like birds. We don't have enough strength in our arms to move wings up and down. We also really need the power of engine to drive up forward. Many people died learning these lessons before controlled flight became possible. The first flying machine, which could carry a human being, was built in Spain in 975. Reports tell us that inventor flew some distance, but landing was hard. The man hurt his back badly and was never able to fly again. It was possible that the news of his flight reached England, carried there by men returning from war in Middle East. Whether this is true or not, in 1010 a man called Oliver jumped off a church roof in Malmesbury. This time we know the distance of his flight, 125 steps. In the last years of 15th century, the Italian Leonardo da Vinci studied the flight of birds and made a number of drawings of flying machines. His early machines tried to copy the movements of birds' wings, which he didn't fully understand. But less than 10 years before his death in 1519, he drew a machine with wings that didn't move. One of the machines was built and it did fly. In 1536, in France, Denis Boller returned to the idea of moving wings. He tried to fly using wings that were moved up and down. The idea didn't work, and he fell to his death. Inventions that changed the world. The end. Card 15. Daily bread. Miss Martha was 40 years old, but she was not married. She had her own shop where she sold bread, both fresh and stale, which was cheaper. There was a customer who called at her shop 2 or 3 times a week. The man was not young, but he was very pleasant. He wore cheap clothes, but they always looked nice on him. He always bought stale bread and never fresh. Miss Martha decided that he was very poor. She often thought of him and was always sorry that she couldn't invite him to have dinner with her. She wanted to talk to him, to know more about him. She liked the man and began wearing her best dress. She wanted to help the poor man, but didn't know how to do it. Once, when her customer called on her to buy stale bread, Miss Martha had an idea, and a good one, as she thought, to help him. She put some butter in the stale bread. The next day 2 men came into the shop. One of them was her customer, and the other a young man. The customer was very angry and couldn't speak to her, so the young man told Miss Martha everything. "We work together in the same office," he said. "We use stale bread to take away to the pencil lines from our plans. We have worked at the plan of new district for 6 months. We finished it this morning and began taking away pencil lines from it with your bread. You see, as there was a butter in the bread, the plan is good for nothing, and we can't show this plan to anybody now." When the man left, Miss Martha went to her room, took off her best dress, and put on her old one. By O. Henry. The end. Card 16. Christmas is probably the most festive time of year, a season of gift-giving and celebration. We all know that Christmas is a religious holiday, which marks the birth of Jesus Christ. But did you also know that some of the traditions are adapted from the rituals dating back to the time before Christianity? Many pagan peoples regarded the winter solstice as a time of celebration. Anticipating the return of spring, people decorated their homes with evergreen plants, a symbol of eternal life. Mistletoe was especially popular, as it was believed to have the magic powers. People hung sprigs of mistletoe in their homes and kissed beneath them as a gesture of friendship. At pagan festivals there was also a lot of singing and dancing going on. Dancing in circle is the original meaning of the word carol. Still now we keep these traditions up, We sing the Christmas carol and dance around in circles. We kiss beneath the mistletoe, and we decorate our homes with Christmas trees. By the way, did you know that it was a German who set the trend of decorating Christmas trees in England? It was Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband. When he moved to England, Christmas tree had already been popular in continental Europe, but not in England. In 1841, Prince Albert put up a Christmas tree at Windsor Castle. The event was reported in the press, and as the whole country was very keen on the royal family, people enthusiastically took up the custom of decorating a tree at Christmas. Card 17. Why people get tattoos. The desire to be part of group, to be accepted by one's friends or peers, can have a great influence on what a person does. Sometimes wearing tattoos can be a sign that you belong to a certain group. Gangs often use special clothes and tattoos to identify their particular group. For example, in one gang, all the members may wear green army jackets and have large X's tattooed on their arms. It is not only gangs that have this type of special uniform. Young people often belong to a certain group of friends. For example, some wear only black clothes, others wear tattoo. When a person's friends are all doing something, such as getting tattoo, that person is more likely to do the same thing and get a tattoo too. The media is another big influence behind the popularity of tattoos in North America. A wide variety of media images show tattoos. Famous sports heroes with tattoos are shown in magazines. Fashion models are often seen in magazines and on TV, wearing designer clothes that show their bodies tattooed with detailed and colorful patterns. These media images link tattoos to ideas of wealth, success, and status. As a result, many people decide to get a tattoo for its fashion and status value. It is not always the influence of other people or media that results in a person getting a tattoo. Many people decide to wear a tattoo in order to express their artistic nature, their beliefs, or their feelings. In other words, to show their individuality. A musician in a rock band may get a tattoo of guitar on their arm. Some environmentalists may tattoo picture of endangered animals on their shoulders. Lovers may tattoo each other's names over their hearts. A tattoo can be a public sign to show what is important in a person's life. The end. Card 18. The spider. Have you ever seen a small animal with 4 pairs of legs? A body that is divided into 2 parts. This is a spider. Spiders live over the world. They do not live only in the coldest places. You may find them on land, on grass, bushes, trees, and on pools, rivers, seas. There are 15,000 different kinds of spiders. The smallest spider is less than 1 millimeter in body length. The biggest one can have body length up to 90 millimeters. The spider spins its web to catch insects for food. It spins its web all its life. The process of spinning a web is very long. People say that the spider is very persistent in its work. If you destroy its web, a spider will begin to spin a new web. There is a story about a spider and a Scottish hero, Robert Bruce, 1274–1329. Robert Bruce was at the head of the Scottish army in the fight for the independence of Scotland against the English kings, Edward I and Edward II. Once Robert Bruce was watching a spider spinning the web. Robert Bruce destroyed the web, and the spider began to spin a new web. Several times Robert Bruce destroyed the web, and each time the spider began its work from the beginning. Watching the persistent work of the spider, Bruce decided to be as persistent as the spider and continue the fight for the independence of Scotland. And he defeated the English. It was many years ago, but Scottish people still remember their great victory and their great leader Robert Bruce. First Science, the end. Card 19. A Gypsy Child. One day Mr. Earnshaw came back from a long journey. He had travelled 60 miles to Liverpool and back on business, and was very tired. "Look what I have brought you," he said. His children, Catherine and Hindley, were expecting presents, and they rushed eagerly to see what it was. They were very disappointed to see only a dirty, black-haired gypsy child. I found him all alone in the busy street of the Liverpool, Mr. Earnshaw explained to them, and I couldn't leave him to die. He can sleep in your room, children. But Catherine and Hindley were very angry, because they hadn't received any presents, and refused to let the strange child share their room. However, Mr. Earnshaw insisted, and little by little the boy became accepted by the family. He was called Heartcliff as the first and last name. No one ever discovered who his parents were. Catherine and he became great friends, but Hindley hated him and was often cruel to him. Old Mr. Earnshaw was strangely fond of the gypsy child, and frequently punished his son for behaving badly to Heartcliff. Hindley began to be jealous to his father's feeling for Heartcliff, and saw them both as enemies. This situation couldn't last. As Mr. Earnshaw grew old and ill, Heartcliff became even more his favorite, and Hindley often quarrelled with his father. When Hindley was sent away to study, everybody hoped that they would have peace in the house. The end. Examination card 20. Love for art. Joe and Delia both loved art. Joe came to New York to study painting. Delia left a little town for New York to study music. Joe and Delia met at their friend's studio, and a year later they got married. Joe and Delia were very happy, but one day they found that they had no money. Delia decided to give music lessons, and a few days later she came home very pleased with herself. "Joe, dear," she said, "I have found a pupil. The family is rich. They'll pay me $5 a lesson." However, Joe was not happy about that. He didn't want his wife to work. He wanted her to study and be a famous pianist. A week later, Delia brought home $15 for the 3 lessons. To her surprise, Joe put 4 $5 bills on the table too. He said that he had sold one of his pictures. One Saturday evening, Delia came home late. She looked very tired, and her right hand was banged. Delia said, "My pupil's family invited me to dinner after the lesson, and the girl spilled some hot sauce on my hand. She was very sorry about that." "At what time did you burn your hand, Delia?" Joe asked her. "About 5. The iron, the sauce, darling." Joe took her hand in his. "Where are you working?" And she told him the truth. Delia couldn't find any pupils, and as she wanted Joe to study painting, she had to work in laundry. "How did you know I wasn't giving music lessons?" she asked. "I sent up these bandages this afternoon for a girl who had burned her hand with an iron. I'm working in the machine room of the same laundry." The end. Card 21. South for the winter. I never stay in one country for a long time. It gets boring. I like to move on, see new places, and meet different people. It's a good life most of the time. When I need money, I get a job. I can do most things: hotel and restaurant work, building work, picking fruit. I like to go south in the winter, Cyprus or perhaps North Africa. Life is easier in the sun, and Northern Europe can get very cold in the winter. Last year I was in Venice in October. I did some work in a hotel for 3 weeks. Then I began slowly to move south. I always go by train when I can. I like trains. You can walk about on a train, and you meet a lot of people. I left Venice and went on to Trieste. There I got a cheap ticket for the slow train to Sofia in Bulgaria. It takes a day and a half, but the express was too expensive. The train left Trieste at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. There weren't many people on it at first, but at Zagreb more people got on. 2 girls went along the corridor past my compartment. They looked through the door, but didn't come in. The train left Zagreb, and I looked out of the window for about 10 minutes. Then I went to sleep. When I opened my eyes again, the two girls were in the compartment.
"Hi,"
they said. "You're American," I said, "or Canadian, right?"
"American,"
the taller girl said. She smiled.
"and you're 23. Your name is Tom Walsh. You've got blue eyes, and your mom lives in Burnham-on-Sea, UK, right?"
"How did you know all that?" I asked. Jennifer Bassett. The end. Card 22. A teenage businessman. When most 14-year-old boys are playing football or computer games after school, James Kenyon from Manchester is running his own successful business. I've heard of a company in Scotland selling homemade bus products, and thought it was a good idea. My dad said I could do that, so I decided to take a chance, James explains. That was 2.5 years ago. James started selling bus products to his friends and neighbors, but soon he began working for 2 local shopkeepers. Since he started his own soap company, selling homemade soap, bus salt, and other bus products, James has earned over £4,500. James is proud of his success in business, but he thinks there are more important things in his life. I've learned lots and I'm really enjoying it. But my schoolwork always comes first. James's parents are proud of their son. They think that he plans everything really well. He does homework and he can focus on the business in his spare time. James says his parents have been a big support. In 2006, James became a finalist in the Enterprising Young Brit Award. James is just one of an extraordinary group of enterprising young British businessmen who have innovative ideas and enthusiasm for business. Age and experience is certainly no obstacles to their success. Their ambition and energy inspires them to create their money-making ideas. The end. Card 23. 100 billion hamburgers. Once upon a time, a businessman named Ray Kroc discovered a restaurant owned by 2 brothers. The restaurant served just 4 things: hamburgers, French fries, milkshakes, and Coca-Cola. But it was clean and inexpensive, and service was quick. Mr. Kroc liked so much that he paid the brothers so that he could use their idea and their name, McDonald's. Beef, big business, and fast service were the ingredients when Mr. McCrock opened his first McDonald's in 1955. 4 years later, there were hundreds of them. Kroc knew Americans liked success, so he put signs saying how many millions of McDonald's hamburgers people had bought. In just 4 years, the number was 100 million. Now there are more than 13,000 McDonald's restaurants, from Dallas to Paris, and from Moscow to Beijing. Anyone who wants to open McDonald's must first work in one for a week. Then they do a 9-month training program in the restaurant and at McDonald's University in Chicago. There they learn the McDonald's philosophy, quality control, service, and cheap prices. McDonald's has strict rules. Hamburgers must be served before they are 10 minutes old, and French fries 7. McDonald's has never stopped looking for new methods to attract customers, from drive-in windows to birthday parties. Chicken, fish, salad, and, in some places, pizza are now on the menu. Their international popularity shows they have found the recipe for success. The end. Card 24. Thomas Alva Edison. Thomas Alva Edison lit up the world with his invention of the electric light. However, the electric light was not his only invention. He also invented the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and over 1,200 other things. Surprisingly, he attended to school for only 2 months. His mother, a former teacher, taught him a few things, but Thomas was mostly self-educated. His natural curiosity led him to start experimenting at a young age with electrical and mechanical things at home. When he was 12 years old, he got his first job. He became a newsboy on a train that ran between Port Huron and Detroit. He set up a laboratory in a baggage car of the train, so that he could continue his experiments in his spare time. Unfortunately, his first work experience did not end well. Thomas was fired when he accidentally set fire to the floor of the baggage car. Thomas then worked for 5 years as telegraph operator, but he continued to spend much of his time on the job conducting experiments. Thomas Edison was totally deaf in 1 year and hard of hearing in other, but thought of his deafness as a blessing in many ways. It kept conversation short, so that he could have more time for work. He called himself a 2-shift man, because he worked 16 out of every 24 hours. Sometimes he worked so intensively that his wife had to remind him to sleep and eat. Thomas Edison died at the age of 84 on October 18, 1931. He left numerous inventions that improve the quality of life all over the world. The end. Examination card 25. Part-time jobs for teenagers. Part-time jobs for American students are very popular and usually begin during their high school days. Besides working in fast food restaurants and small cafeterias, a very popular job for a teenager in America is babysitting. This has its greatest appeal among teenage girls, and a good babysitter can earn quite a bit, if she is reliable, responsible, and mature. It is not necessarily an easy job, and requires both social skills and general competence. Such a job often involves working on Friday and Saturday nights, when many married couples like to spend the night going to a movie or the theater. Other part-time jobs, which are popular, especially among young boys, is managing a paper route, or mowing the lawns of people in one's neighborhood. These jobs also require a sense of responsibility. It can be a source of good income for a high school student. Young boys who run paper routes are required to get up early in the morning to deliver the daily news, regardless of the weather. This job has no holidays and requires the newspaper to be delivered every day without exceptions. In America, there are no newspaper holidays. Part-time jobs for high school students in America are often seen as an opportunity to teach young people about work responsibility and respect for others. The young people learn how to become part of the adult world and to share in the making of society. The end.